guys, welcome back to Messy on Purpose. I'm Heather,
Fylisha.
and we are so excited for our guest today. It is the Miss Ashlee Gambino, aka the Mob Wife.
That's me.
That's you. We are so excited to just kind of talk to you and hear about your story.
Thank you for having me here. I love coming on all
Thank
platforms
you.
to spread awareness and
Yeah.
story with everything that's been going on.
Yeah. So, why don't we start with the beginning and then just kind of work into whatever you want to tell us?
Okay. I'm now a retired professional fighter, actress, and I'm now an advocate for PAH, which is an incredibly rare disease that I was diagnosed with and almost killed me, and it took one of my daughters away from me.
What does it stand for? Like, what's the full name of it?
Pulmonary arterial hypertension.
Okay.
Yeah, and what happens is the arteries in your lungs will constrict, get tighter, and in turn it puts pressure on the right side of your heart. The right side of your heart is what pumps blood into your lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So when they found my condition, the right side of my heart was twice the size as it should have been due to the condition.
And if I remember right, you were pregnant at the time that you found out.
Pregnant. Yes, and that can actually make PAH a lot worse because when you're pregnant, you have a higher blood volume, and so your body's working harder. Not to mention everything's getting moved around in there, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Did the activity, like heightened activity of being a fighter, did that contribute to it too, or?
I don't believe that being a fighter contributed to it. I'm actually in the idiopathic group, which means they don't know what caused it. When I first got diagnosed, the doctors did ask me several times if I took steroids or the COVID vaccination, which the answer was no to both of those. In retrospect, honestly, I kind of believe that fighters should be able to use a certain steroid, and I wish I would have had access to it, but I didn't. So I can't blame it on that.
Can I ask you really quickly, what kind of fighting did you do? Was it like UFC, MMA, boxing? Like, what was your?
Didn't you do like all
what was
four
your flavor?
or something?
Yeah.
There's like four.
I competed in jiu-jitsu, MMA, and professional boxing. I never did make it to the UFC, but I did have a goal of becoming world champion one day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We're like, this isn't steroids, baby. This is natural, homegrown.
What got you into it? What got you into fighting? Like, what was the motivator? What made you want to go on that path?
Yeah. Before I ever had kids, my husband looked at me and he said, did you ever think about fighting? You kind of remind me of Ronda Rousey.
When you got it, you got it.
That day, I went to the library to look into it to see what it was all about, the female fighting side, you know what I mean? And I decided to try it. It turns out I was very good at it.
Just a natural gift.
What'd you start with?
I first started with a gym. I went to a fighter tryout and made it, and they called me Scrappy Ashlee
Gambino. what type of gym was it? Was it just a regular boxing gym, or
it
was
an
it
MMA gym?
Oh, it was an MMA. Okay.
Yeah, and things didn't work out with them, but that's okay. That's kind of what happens with jealousy, and when the best fighter there is a female, it is what it is.
So you whooped that fighter, is what you're saying?
I wouldn't say I whooped her. I was only there for a short time, but I started getting really good really fast. And
it was a threat.
I don't know. She just, I guess she was threatened by it.
Yeah.
Was it just like drama that brought you out?
Kind of. Yeah. In short.
So where'd you move to from there? What'd you do?
Well, we actually did some stuff in our home. We invited a lot of people to come and train with us and teach them beginner boxing. And it started making a pretty big impact in the community. Yeah. I didn't realize how big of an impact until one day I was at an orientation for one of my jobs. And they were introducing everybody. Everybody was introducing themselves anyways. And I was sitting in the back because that's what I do. So I got skipped over. I'm not saying anything. I'm just here to make money. I don't care. I'm not here to make friends. And then this guy walks in at the very end, and he sees me in the back, and he points me out. And he introduced me for me and said that he respected what me and my husband were doing for the community and how much of a difference it was making. So then I realized how important it was what we were doing. So
when was this that you started that?
That was before we moved to Las Vegas. That was in Ohio.
Okay. What, like, how long ago? Just to kind of grasp, like, the time frame.
Around 8 years ago.
Around 8 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, actually a little longer than that because it was before I had my daughter, so around 10 years ago.
Okay.
Makes my daughter
And I
12
can
now.
see, like, where at in Ohio are you from?
We were living in Worcester, Ohio at the time.
I don't even
Yeah, it's a small town.
know. Okay.
I was born in Akron, so if you
Okay.
might know where Akron is. It's around that area.
Okay.
So what brought you to Las Vegas? Was it the
Opportunity.
fighting circuit? Like,
Yes. Actually, on our way to Las Vegas, I was fresh off of an ACL surgery.
Mhm.
The ACL is the ligament in your knee and main ligament that tears pretty often in athletes.
Mhm.
And I've had both of my knees reconstructed now.
Oh.
I was on my second knee reconstructing on our way out to Las Vegas, and we came out here for opportunity. It was my husband's idea, mostly for fighting, but ended up stemming into other things like acting and whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to try different things out here in Vegas, which
Yeah,
is
there
really, really cool. I mean, especially
Yes.
being from the Midwest, like we know there's
Not
nothing
unless
there.
you want to work in a factory and be normal your whole life.
Exactly.
We don't want to be normal.
Exactly. We don't want to be normal.
We do not want to be
So-
normal.
Right.
How long did you do it in Ohio with like the community and all that stuff before you?
Let's see. I started training when I was 21. Had my daughter at 24. We moved to Las Vegas when she had just turned 2. So I would say probably around 5 years ish.
Okay. And then, sorry. Yeah,
No, I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna
I'm-
say I'm
Told you I
excited
was
to
full of
like get
questions.
into. I know. Can we do questions after? I want to hear her story.
Sorry.
Just tell us kind of how you got started, how it progressed, and then obviously your health stuff coming into it.
When we first moved to Las Vegas, my husband was looking for the strip. He had this vision in his mind. We had no idea what Fremont Street was at the time when we first came here.
Mhm.
But he knew that he was looking for a street that you couldn't drive on, that only people walked on. And when we drove past Fremont, he said, "Babe, this is it." And so I dropped him off that day. And me and my daughter, we took off and went somewhere else. And when I picked him up, he was talking to me about the performer circles out there. And he said, I bet people would really like to watch you shadow box out there. And that's something that I was doing to rehab my knee anyways. I was very fresh off my ACL surgery. We drove to Las Vegas, and I had to stop like every 2 hours to stretch out my knee because it was stuck bent. And like I was that fresh off my ACL surgery. But he was right. I went out there and I started shadow boxing as a performer after I got the credentials I needed from the security team and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it started turning out really well. And then I started shadow boxing against people. And I would hand them gloves. And the rules were that we weren't really trying to hit each other. But as you can imagine,
Yeah.
it turned real more often than not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was fun. I actually had a lot of real fighters come up to me, and I got a lot of good work out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had to stop the guys whose pride got hurt, and they tried to actually start hurting me, and I'd have to take the gloves from them.
I was gonna say,
They
I'm
have to
sure
find
some
out.
people got humiliated if they had some liquid courage or
Yeah.
whatever.
Was
You
it
can
more
imagine.
dudes than girls?
I got more men than women.
Yeah, I
coming up
would
to
have walked
me.
up and want her to punch me.
I'm just like that. As a dude, I don't know why you'd want to walk up to a girl and get punched. Though
They're like, I
I
can
don't
take
know.
her.
Some guys were bringing their friends up there wanting to get hit. Like there was this one lady who ended up texting me a couple years later saying, "Thank you. He deserved this so much because of this, this, and this." They came up to me and they said, "We want to pay you to punch him." And I was like, "Okay, well, you want me to be nice? Or do you really want me to punch him?" They're like, "No, please, really punch him." I was like, and I asked him, I said, "Is this okay with you?"
Is it the
I'm not
dude
trying
in
to
the
be
hat?
charged.
Like that video I watched.
Yeah, kind of looks like Bert Kreischer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I got him pretty good, and then and she texted me saying how much he deserved it. So I guess that one was well deserved.
And
It makes you wonder what it did.
That's awesome.
Did you make pretty good money, like just going to the Fremont?
You know what? For 2 years, I was the best paid performer out there. I was actually so good that I ended up getting one spot banned. Us performers weren't allowed to use it anymore because I was clogging traffic. on
Oh my
Fremont Street.
gosh.
Really? You
Yes.
just had like a line of people.
Just like this crowd around
Circle
me
around.
before I learned to bring them closer first of all. But this people that they were just filling up the whole street, and it was hard to get through because my crowd
Okay.
was blocking the traffic. I think the night that might have set that off is this girl really tried to fight me. And he had a really big crowd around me. she said she understood the rules. Okay. And then we get in there, and she actually hits me. So I hit her back
Yeah.
with a nice hard one. And then I put my hands up a little bit like, all right, we're not going to do that again, right? We're going to have fun now, right? No. Her feelings got hurt that I hit her hard, and she tried to take me down. And so I ended up backing up into the crowd of people that, I don't know, I guess it was kind of like a cage was there. I was like backed up on the crowd of people. And she kept trying to take me down. I kept trying to tell her to stop, and she wouldn't listen. So I dropped into a guillotine, which is a chokehold. And I was on my back on Fremont Street holding her there. And you know, she's going crazy trying to punch me, but she can't because I'm good at what I do. And I put my face over to her ear and said, listen, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to hurt you. I don't want to fight. I want you to stop what you're doing. I'm going to let go of you. You're going to put the gloves down, and then you're going to leave. And so I took a leap of faith, because that could have put me in a very dangerous position to let go of her like that while I was on my back. I let go of her. She got up, took the gloves off, and left. And then that's why I'm going to be a future world champion, you know, throughout the show. Everybody went crazy, but that's what happened. And that was one of the real fights that I encountered out there. And I think that might have been like the deal breaker for that spot when we were allowed to use it anymore.
Was it was just like was she intoxicated probably? Or?
I'm pretty sure she was. I mean, almost everybody is on Fremont.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
Pretty much, anyways.
That's like the cheapest place to go. And
yeah, well, I mean, there's so much entertainment there. There's free concerts every night. It's actually a really cool environment where people from around the world get together and try to vibe together and have a good night most of the time.
There's some chaos down there.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. Like, I'm not big on big crowds anymore. And like, you go down there and it's just like so many people.
Oh, especially when a big name's coming in to do a free concert, then it's literally shoulder to shoulder. Or First Fridays. You know, stuff like
First
that.
Fridays, it gets busy down in Fremont?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. I mean, I know there's no parking downtown when First Friday happens. That's fine.
Yeah. I met a lot of really cool people out there. I worked with an Olympic silver medalist for that year. I worked with world champions from boxing. Nick Diaz came up to me one night after I got done dealing with one of those guys that I had to deal with. And I finished setting up, and I turn around, and he's right there in my face. And he says, "Are you effing crazy?" And I just laughed a little bit. And I said, "Yeah, maybe a little bit." And then he started complaining that I wasn't wearing my mouth guard, and then started walking away from me. And I was like, you know what, though? He's right. I really should be wearing my mouth guard out here. But at the same time, that started giving people more of a license to hit me.
Yeah.
So then I started getting in more and more fights.
Yeah.
And eventually I had to stop where Fremont was going to see me. There was a couple of situations that finalized that. There was this guy, he hit me. I hit him back, and we stopped it. And then I remember trying to help him find his contact. Him and his wife, he lost his contact after that situation. I couldn't find it. Turns out he had gone to the hospital and had to get it removed from the back of his eye.
Oh my gosh.
And then sued Fremont for it.
Oh my goodness.
And so then they were going to come to me and ask me to quit. And the night before that they planned on doing this, there was this guy that really got aggressive with me. It was down in front of the Golden Gate. That was my favorite spot at the end there. And I had to hit him really hard to get him to stop, because he was trying to be really aggressive with me. So I know it's a really good 3-piece. So he started bleeding a lot. I didn't realize it was that bad at the time, but apparently he went into the casino and the med people there couldn't get it to stop bleeding. It was bleeding all over their carpet. And so then the next day, Fremont came up to me and said, "Hey, you're going to have to quit this, or we're going to sue you."
Wait, isn't that voluntary though? Like they're agreeing to like.
But because of what I did, Fremont got sued.
Yeah.
And so they had to put an end to it, because otherwise they'd be responsible for my actions.
So how long were you on Fremont before all that happened?
Well, I stayed out there after that.
You're like,
I wasn't shadow boxing people anymore, but I was having my own fun and trying to develop as an entertainer.
Yeah.
Right before that, I even met Dana White. Dana White came up to me. I shook his hand, told him I'd be a future world champion. At the time, I was nursing my knee, so I explained that to him. And he's like, "Oh, that's brutal." I said, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Cry about it?" and it made them laugh, and then they snapped the picture, so that made a really good picture.
I've seen that picture,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. I had a lot of really good memories out there. I always hold a soft spot in my heart.
So was the goal to fight or to entertain? Like, what was like your main goal when you got here? Just to see what happens?
Oh, actually, our goal was for my husband to fight at the time because I was on my ACL.
Oh, so he fights too?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it just turned into the owner of Tough Enough had actually come out to Fremont, I think 3 times trying to find me. And security told me that he had been looking for me. And then ironically, that day that they told me, he ended up finding me.
Oh, wow.
And then I fought for Tough Enough. I helped them save one of their fights, the girl that dropped out last minute. And so that's when I debuted in MMA here in Las Vegas for Tough Enough. And for a last minute fight at that, right off of my ACL surgery, right when I thought my knee was doing good.
Oh my goodness.
How was that fight?
Training. I mean, I did good. It didn't end how I wanted it to, but nobody even gave her credit for her spectacular comeback from me beating her, and then she came back and beat me. They just said, oh, it was a fluke, but it's true. It was a fluke. If we'd fight any other day, I'd beat her. It is what it is.
I love that attitude. I love her attitude.
She's got so much confidence.
Yeah.
It's just great.
And my pro boxing fight was on a short notice, too. This girl dropped out for whatever reason, and then the other girl that was going to fight her was scared that she would get her nose broken.
You're boxing.
Why would you sign up for a pro boxing fight? So then I mean,
that's part of why I don't want to fight, is I don't want to hit in the face.
You take that chance. Like, that's a risk.
Not because
that's
I'm uncoordinated. Yes, not
right,
that.
right. And I actually was 7 months out from having my second daughter, Tana, and I was still breastfeeding. But I had 12 days, and I said, all right, I'm going to do it. And I made the weight, and I did it. And I went and debuted in professional boxing in New York.
That's incredible.
That's
we were just
insane.
talking about making big goals over here.
She over here.
She
shooting
took the
for stars.
opportunities. Yeah. When the opportunities came, you took them.
And you weren't scared. You just jumped right in.
No, I'm very good at what I do. I wasn't scared at all. If I had the chance to go back from this disease, if I live long enough for them to find a cure, and I get a chance to go back to stake and fight, I'm totally doing it.
Yeah. Okay,
You can
so
tell
let's
you
get
love
into
it.
that a little bit. Like, you
Stop
were
the
pregnant.
waterworks already.
No, they haven't started yet. Shh, don't embarrass me. I have a tissue right here.
You're over here telling me you were just gonna let her beat me up and walk away. So
Well, you deserved it.
Hey, I don't beat you up unless you give me a reason.
She got your name wrong, Ashley. I'm all pumping it up. Like, okay, so to get into that, it was your daughter Katana.
Yes, she's my second
Okay, so you were pregnant with her when you found out.
daughter. No, actually, I was pregnant with my daughter. We ended up leaving baby Rain.
Okay.
To her company.
So how many kids do you have?
I was going to have 5. I
Okay.
actually had a miscarriage the year that I was diagnosed and I lost Tana. I had miscarriage on Mother's Day that year.
Well,
Yeah, I know, right? Mother's Day. I don't know if that one was a girl or a boy. It was really early. And we assumed it was because of my health because we knew it wasn't the best. After I had Carmine, my oxygen was dropping, and they didn't know why. I went through all kinds of extensive testing with my heart and my lung, and all they could tell me was everything looked perfect and athletic. So, in essence, I was too tough for my own good, and my disease is also so rare that they didn't know what other signs to look for. And so it just got looked over at the time.
so how long was that before they were able to diagnose you?
Carmine is 3 years old now, and that was the first sign medically where a doctor's team had found something related to PH. Now that I know what I have and how it feels, I am pretty positive that I fought in boxing with it. And maybe even MMA.
Yeah.
So is this something that you basically have always had, or is it something that's developed? Like, what? I don't really understand the disease, I guess.
It's definitely developed. When you get pregnant, it makes things worse. And it's possible I went through all my pregnancies with it. I just don't know. It might have just been, an incredibly tough individual that's managed to survive, because usually pregnancy with pulmonary hypertension results in death. This time it almost did. Katana passed away really suddenly. And it was not something that we were prepared for at all. It really happened really fast. It was right after Thanksgiving. She was eating, getting dressed in her costume, playing and everything, and wanted to go outside. She was fine by any means. And then that weekend she got sick and started throwing up. And that Sunday night we took her to the hospital because she was still throwing up. That Saturday she started throwing up. And then Monday morning her heart stopped 3 times. And we lost her. And that was done. And at the time, I was on crutches because I was pregnant and my knee completely blew out of nowhere. And they couldn't do anything about it because I was pregnant. So I was just going to wait until after I had my baby. Probably get my tubes tied. Have surgery on separated abs, which I have. Not due to pregnancy. Unfortunately, sometimes your abs don't go back. And get surgery on my knee again and go back to fighting. That was the plan. And then everything happened with Tana. And my husband brought us back to Ohio for the funeral. That's where most of our family's at. There are actually only 3 facilities in the country that handle pulmonary arterial hypertension. They're in California, Arizona, and Ohio, in the Cleveland Clinic. And while we were in Ohio, I don't know, I knew something was wrong, but a lot of us were kind of blowing it off on grief. And, pregnancy. And right after Christmas, I just really, really felt like I needed to get checked out. Excuse me. And so I had tried to go to the hospital, and then they sent me home and said, there's nothing we can do for you, you're fine. So I tried to go again. And they sent me home and said, there's nothing we can do for you, you're fine. They wouldn't even give me oxygen. I was begging for oxygen. I thought that might have been my issue. I had to take like 3 or 4 breaks just to get up one flight of stairs. I was doing really bad. My oxygen would drop down into the 80s from walking one room to the other. And I knew that couldn't be good for my baby either. Yeah. Like she had to be feeling that somehow. And so I tried again. And they almost sent me home again. And this time, I finally provoked the oxygen drop for them to send me to another hospital, which was Akron Hospital, to take a closer look at me. And then they almost discharged me too. But then, luckily, there was one good doctor that looked at my echo, an ultrasound of your heart. Yeah. And he noticed the pulmonary hypertension. You can't get an accurate reading of the pressure in your heart unless you do a right heart catheter. So you can get like an estimate in an echo, something like that, but it's so inconsistent. I mean, it's never going to tell you your actual pressure. Yeah. And so they had to stick a cable down in my neck and into my heart in order to get the pressure, and that's how I was officially diagnosed. But I was very, very much on the end of my tail there, and it's really a miracle I survived. They really didn't think I was going to make it out of the hospital. I had to make the hard choice to lose my daughter because I just wanted to wait. I said, I'm tough. I've made it this far, right? Let me just wait until she might be able to sustain in the ICU or something like that. And they didn't feel like that was a possibility. They felt like even a week later, I would have been passed away. She would have just been suffering, passing away too. And so I had no choice but to let her go. And they took her. Yeah. Lost both of them in the span of a month. And almost lost my life when they were taking her. My heart stopped. They had to sit me up to make me breathe. They said my whole face was blue. Right before they took her, it was the only panic attack that I've ever actually really had, where I couldn't breathe. I just really didn't want to do that. I really didn't want to do that. But I had no choice. I still have 2 other kids and my husband that are needing me. And so I had to try and fight and survive. And I did. And I stayed as stoic as possible because I knew I needed to. Every time I get into these crying fits, it can't be good for my heart. And so I used my skills from fighting to calm myself and to be as stoic as I possibly could. After they took my daughter, they didn't feel like I was progressing fast enough and getting better, so they decided that I should have this thing put in my heart. It's the best medicine they have at the moment to help relieve symptoms of pulmonary arterial hypertension. It's life-sustaining medication. My pump runs 24/7. I have to mix the medicine every 48 hours. I'll be mixing it tonight. And I have to do it in a very sterile manner because it goes directly to my heart. That's why a lot of people get infections when they're going through things like this. Because they just expect you to turn into a doctor as soon as they put this thing in your heart. At first, it was really overwhelming, but I knew that I could handle it. I've got experience with some medical things. I had nursed one of my dogs through Fargo in the past, which is almost impossible to do. I've had experience with giving injections. I worked at a kennel where this woman allowed me to give the puppies their vaccines. She taught me that. So I was like, you know what? I can do this. I have to. I'm giving up swimming. I love swimming. I can't go swimming anymore. But it's better than giving up my life. And I'll be here for my husband and my kids and to keep spreading the message to all my fans that have started watching me over the years and try and grow the audience to not only raise awareness for this condition, but for families and for yourself in general. We all have to be tough. We all have to be tough to live in this tough world. And if we're not, we'll easily get walked all over. Or walked all over as a community. We all need to band together and get out of this horrible, slippery slope of negativity that we've all fallen into with this social media stuff and pull back out and be more positive so that we can progress as a human race in general. It's always been my message, not just because I got sick. And
well, you were tough before you got sick. That the toughness is what got you through this.
Actually, that's the reason I wanted to become a world champion, so that I could gain the position of influence to spread that message, to do and be better as people in general. And I feel like since I pulled through this crazy situation and I'm still fighting it, it's been getting really bad. And I've made the decision for myself to go up on my medicine and my dosage. I'm kind of alone. There's not very many doctors that know anything about this. The doctors that put this thing in my heart are all the way in Ohio. Actually, let me share a crazy story that I haven't really posted online. So this past year, it was a couple months ago, my line started leaking. It sprung a leak. And so I taped it up. I cleaned it with some alcohol wipes. I taped it up. I went to the hospital. I said, hey, I need a new line in my chest. After a lot of back and forth, I found out that nobody in Las Vegas has this line. And so I had to fly to Ohio with it taped up to go get a new line in my chest.
Now, before you said there's doctors in Arizona and California. Could you have went to one of those instead? Or
possibly. But I have family in Ohio.
What about Mayo Clinic?
The Mayo Clinic is the one that deals with it in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've been trying to work with some of the doctors. First, I was going to the ones in LA, at least trying to anyways. Because that's the ones that my doctors knew back from Ohio.
Yeah.
But it never worked out with insurance and all that good stuff. And so I made the decision to go to Ohio to get that line replaced because, one, once I get there, I have family to pick me up. I'm not trying to get a rental
people
car.
to help you out too.
Right. And flying just takes a lot out of me now.
Mhm.
This condition, like, I literally, when I first started it, I had it for about a year, and I did this podcast with the Liver King. It wasn't a podcast; it was more than that. But I was sleeping the whole next day because of it, just because of a podcast.
Yeah.
And so this condition has really humbled me in a lot of ways. I went from being this indestructible mom who was a fighter to sleeping all day because I did a podcast.
Is that probably the hardest like part of the transition? Is like trying not to be that too much of a go-getter because you're not capable of doing that anymore? Because it sounds like before, like you would just do everything, right?
Well,
And you were just like indestructible, but now it's not so.
it's not
I
so
think you're
easy.
more indestructible now. Like,
Well, yeah, but
personally
I'm
speaking.
more meant like
Yeah.
the capability of getting so like she said she got exhausted. You
Yeah,
know,
just
like I mean, just talking.
Yeah. At the time, my husband even had to wheel me up to the suite in a wheelchair because I couldn't even walk around. But I'm just probably the most resilient person you'll ever meet.
Oh, I agree with that.
So I've never quit fighting over this. At that time, I also had to go up on my medicine, and I had to make that decision on my own, and it helped me a lot. And then we adopted a couple of dogs, and now that I'm taking care of those dogs, it takes a lot physically, and I'm using that to try and help me. And I think it is helping me, saving me, and along with going up with this medicine. And so I've been able to walk around the store now without having to ride the little cart thingy.
Yeah.
Is it the activity you get with the dogs? Is it just kind of like walking them, or like what is it about the dogs that
Do you think
really
like
helps?
the contact or the
or the
connection with the dog?
Well, dogs take a lot of care. They're kind of like having kids.
Oh, for sure.
At first, we adopted a Chihuahua. My mom gave him to us because she breeds dogs. And so I took him and picked him up. His name's Prince Vegeta. He's the sweetest, most coolest little dude. He backs me up anytime that I'm mad at anybody. He starts going after him. He's the cutest little thing, I swear. And then we adopted a Great Dane.
Oh, that is a lot of work.
You went from like
God.
little to a horse.
Yeah, he is. He's about the size of a miniature horse. I
My
worked with those in my
gosh.
past.
It's fun when they try to sit on you because it's just like, okay, bro.
Yeah. That's one of his favorite things, to sit on my lap. He loves sitting on my lap. His name's Maximus.
Maximus, you have the best names.
Yeah, he's old. We adopted him from a shelter, and I really love him. He's such a good. He's never hurt my little dog. Or even showed any signs of wanting to.
They're
He's
never
such a
really
great dog.
those dogs are so big, but they're never aggressive. I've never came across one.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I
I
wouldn't say
wondered what
that.
Fylisha was saying because I have a background in medicine. I was a nurse,
Okay.
but I did mental health. But one of the things that was the most healing for people going through times was bringing the animals in, especially dogs. Like
Yeah,
the
they're
dogs were
amazing.
so great. Yeah.
They are amazing creatures,
Mhm.
and yeah, I really attribute a lot of my getting better to taking care of Maximus. And now we have a puppy who is a German Shepherd Cane Corso mix.
You went
Aw.
hard into the dogs. Then you get a puppy.
Yeah.
That is a newborn.
That's like having a little mini
Especially a
raptor.
German Shepherd. Yeah.
And she really is, man. She is probably the roughest dog I've ever raised in my life. I swear. But she does real good with her dogs, and she's just awesome. She's training really well. I have a lot of experience in training dogs, so it really helps. You know, like I said before, I saved one of my dogs in the past from Parvo. I have a lot of experience with them. Yeah, super cool.
Can I ask you just to go back, and you don't have to discuss it if you don't want to, but being a mom of multiple children, of course, my natural tendency is to think of like how your other kids are doing. Like your older, you said you have a 9-year-old,
Yes, I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old.
and so she kind of has had to go through these experiences with you. Like, how are
Yeah.
they doing?
She lost her best friend. When we get to podcast, like
Yeah.
out of nowhere, and she was only 7 years old.
Yeah.
Carmen even recognized it, even though he was so little. He knew Sissy wasn't there anymore. Yeah, and I affected us all tremendously, but they are so strong. Especially Carmela. I cannot believe how well she's handled everything. She knows what I'm going through. She knows I'm on life-sustaining medication. They watch me mix it. They know that they have to stay away while mommy's doing medicine stuff. I have to change my own dressing, covering this hole directly in my heart. So they see that when I do that too. But I feel like I have to set an example. Life is going to throw things at you that you don't expect. And if you allow those things to just stop you in your tracks, you're never going to develop as a human being. So I couldn't allow myself to stop in my tracks when I have these children looking up to me, because I have to set an example.
You chose to live for them.
Right. Right.
And that's cool. Like that they're really tough. They got your toughness. That's what it is. They're like mama's toughness.
Daddy too. Daddy's been so amazing through everything. He's really just like, at first I couldn't even do the dishes. I was so bad that I couldn't even do dishes. He literally took over everything. He's the reason I'm still alive today.
So does he still fight? I know you said he was a fighter too.
Yeah, I think he's gonna fight in boxing next year. He was talking about this organization in Poland wanted to bring him over there, but they couldn't find an opponent for this card, so it'll be on the next one in March probably.
That's cool though. He's still doing it, and
Yeah.
it's probably at least still something you're both passionate about, and at least somebody's still able to work towards something. And
yeah, and while I can still train my kids to an extent, Carmine's always asking me to teach them how to do push-ups. So
a proper push-up.
Right, a proper push-up.
Yep.
I'm not teaching them the sissy push-ups.
Exactly, a real push-up.
are you gonna put them in like training and stuff as they get older? And
Yes, I would like to put Carmela in some boxing and jiu-jitsu, and I'd like to do the same thing with Carmine. I'm not going to force them to compete.
Yeah.
If they want to,
like
then I'll support it.
I have
For
a
sure.
question about that because did you say your daughter that passed away, she also had the same condition with her heart?
No, her condition was also incredibly rare, though. It was acute leukemia. It's so rare. It's like getting bit by a shark and hit by lightning at the same time.
wow.
Same thing with my disease. It's so incredibly rare. It's so rare that they didn't even have a line for my chest here in Las Vegas.
So they don't, because this is something, because I don't know about this condition, even going through nursing school and stuff, I don't feel like I learned about your condition. Obviously, I know how the heart works and everything, but your condition is something that is extremely rare. You said it was something that developed over time, so they're not worried about that being like a genetic, like it's something that can be passed down to your children, or
It can be genetic, but in my case, they haven't called it genetic because it's never happened to anybody in my family before.
okay.
I don't think it's genetic in my case. I feel like there's an explanation that just hasn't been found yet because it hasn't been studied enough.
Yeah.
All my nurses that I've interacted with since I've had this condition have never heard of it.
Yeah.
Even the nurses in Cleveland Clinic.
Uh-huh.
When I went to Cleveland Clinic to get this line replaced, I had to put a new mix of medicine in my pump because they don't want
They
to
weren't
put the
aware
same
of it.
mix on when you put the new line in. And so when I was doing that, the nurse was like, "Not much,"
Yeah.
because I have no idea what this is. And so it made me realize soon I'm going to be creating a tutorial online.
I was gonna say that'd be incredible and
For not
informative.
only the dressing, because the emergency room guy, when I was thinking, almost ripped the cord out
Oh
of my
my
heart because he didn't know
gosh.
what he was doing. Oh my god, I almost killed him.
It's like a central catheter.
Yes. And then there was a situation, where anybody could be, maybe their family randomly gets diagnosed with this and they don't know how to help them by mixing this medicine. I can't exactly give them their situation, but I can give them my situation. And anybody that might have to help save my life in the future can watch it. So I'll be making one of those that are very, very detailed
Yeah.
and putting it online before too long.
Is there? I know you said it's kind of hard to diagnose. Is there any symptoms that you like experienced in that process of them trying to diagnose what was wrong with you that maybe you felt like could have been like something? I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, of course. Yes. This is why I think that I fought in boxing with pulmonary hypertension and possibly even MMA. I don't know how long I've had it. It could have gone all the way back to my childhood, but I don't feel like it would have, based on current science with the condition. Um, but at the same time, I probably shouldn't have survived my pregnancies with it either. And I definitely had it while I was pregnant with Carmine because they found my oxygen to be dropping after I gave birth to him. So I would say, I don't know, it's kind of like the same symptoms of being asthmatic, but not really. It's a little different. It's a little harsher. And then once you get into the heart failure, that's just a whole nother level. It's no longer being out of breath. Now you have heart failure. Your whole body's tired. You could look totally fine, and then when you try to walk across the room, you're totally not. And that's something that I really realized when I went through all this, because my heart failed. It stopped while they were taking my daughter, and they really didn't think I'd be making it out of the hospital. But here I am today, still fighting. And to answer your question from earlier, did it slow me down? No. Absolutely not. I will do everything in my power to keep being me and developing me as a person and trying to help others do the same.
So the hardest part about this is that it's so rare that they don't really know how to diagnose it early enough to even really take action early enough, probably, right?
Yeah, I could have been diagnosed earlier and put on pills before they had to go to this extreme and put this thing in my heart. That definitely could have happened, but it didn't. All the doctors that I worked with here don't even know anything about it. I have a really good cardiologist that I like here in Las Vegas, and even he doesn't know much about it. Because he's helping me to the best of his ability. There's one doctor here that knows a little bit about pulmonary hypertension, so I see him too. And I'm just, I don't know, I'm kind of being my own doctor at this point. One virtual visit with my doctor at Cleveland Clinic, you don't even want to know how much that costed as a self-pay patient.
I can only imagine.
It was insane. And so I became an expert on my knees when I tore my knees. Now I'm trying to become an expert on my heart and lungs because they're suffering. And so I'm learning.
And can I say that is having been in the medical field, and one of the things that I truly noticed in hearing your story is it is so incredibly important to be your advocate, because like them sending you home, trying to discharge you, like I personally know of so many cases of that where it's like, oh, go home and take some Tylenol or get some rest, and like if something's wrong.
Yes.
You have to advocate, or they will you will just get sent home.
Even after you get into the treatment process, you have to advocate for yourself, because there's so many situations where, like, if I didn't one time, one of my doctors here in Las Vegas accidentally prescribed me double the dose of my water pill. And that could have easily ended it right there. But I saw that and I had to fix it. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to educate yourself. You have to take care of yourself. A lot of people just don't even do that anymore. We all get so caught up in everybody else's lives that we forget about our own.
Oh, she's saying all the things we talked about. God, it's like confirmation of just all the conversations we've had. Like everything you're saying is so true. But I'm glad we touched on that, because even with my son, my 9-year-old, he had pneumonia when he was 2.5, 3 years old. We took him to urgent care, the emergency room, 3 different times. They would send him, it's just an upper respiratory infection. And I went back and I was like, you've got to do a chest x-ray. This is not normal. This is not normal for him. Then they come out and they're like, oh, he has double pneumonia. So had we not, because same thing, we were checking his pulse ox, it was dropping down into the lower 90s. You could see he was having a difficult time breathing. And I was like, this is not an upper respiratory infection. But they were so quick to dismiss us, to get us out of there. And
yeah, everybody's just so quick to just hurry up and do stuff. We need to slow down.
Let's get them out. Yep. You're right. So I always
push. Healthcare field in the first place, to take care of people.
Yeah, to help
not
people.
To dismiss them and say, "Oh, you're all right."
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of politics and money behind that.
Oh, I know all about that.
Don't get me down that
I know
sort
all
of
about
snowball that won't stop. But
that's why I haven't been to the California doctors yet. politics.
Yeah. And that you saying you were like a private pay for even the virtual visit and stuff.
Yep.
It's crazy. Like with this condition being something that's more rare, is it more difficult like on the insurance side, like getting things covered and
Cleveland Clinic is really good at what they do for fighting to get my medicine covered.
Yeah.
So they didn't even let me out of the hospital until they had that taken care of.
good.
But when it comes to taking care of myself after that, I mean, I'm kind of on my own.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are too.
Mhm.
Even with stuff that's less serious or maybe just as serious, just a different situation.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important for us to advocate for ourselves and educate ourselves.
And there's so many resources now, right? You just talked about making a video. There's, I mean, not to say for yours, there probably isn't because it's so rare, but there's people out there that make YouTube videos all the time talking about their experiences and things and
This is true.
educating and
I want
ways to find
look.
things.
I'm just gonna throw stuff under the bus right now. Just completely throw this out there. We learned some of the skills we learned in nursing school through YouTube. Like
Yeah.
they would have us watch videos on different. Sorry, I'm putting it out there.
YouTube.
They would like wound dressing. What she's talking about, having a sterile field and stuff
That
like
was
that.
all-
Like we would watch videos on how to do that. That was public knowledge. Like you can learn a lot, but you have to have the resilience to follow through with it. Like the fact that she's doing sterile dressing changes on a central catheter is incredible because there are medical personnel that cannot do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I just did it this morning.
Oh
Actually.
my gosh. But
Well,
there
you
are
also
resources.
you also have to be careful on your resources too. That's where you have to do
Yeah.
your own research
Yes.
and make sure that you're
That's
using
what
the
she was
right
saying. Education, just like somebody writing a prescription down wrong. I mean, it happens. It's human error. Like
Right, we all
there
make
are
mistakes.
times where it's supposed to be milligrams and they put grams or whatever.
And that's
Like
a major difference.
yes. So her being able to catch that, like, yeah, you have to stay on top of it for yourself and for your family for sure.
Right, and circling back to those YouTube videos, they can be great, but they can also be horrible. There's a lot of
Mhm.
people out there that have this misinformation. They think it's funny to spread.
Oh yeah.
And it's just not.
Mhm.
That goes back to that pool of negativity I was talking about. I just really hope that as a human race, we can all band together and stop doing stuff like that,
Mhm.
stop hurting each other.
I agree.
And we're all
Mhm.
together.
I think like at that point you have to really just kind of find the right information, right? You
Mhm.
need
Right.
to do enough research that you are watching the right information. You choose the video we click on, right? But you can also look up additional information to see if that's valid.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
if you can find it. There's a lot of filtering going on the internet right now where it's very hard to find information. Not like when we were kids, it was a lot easier. So you have to just be really careful of your sources and make sure you really know what you're talking about before you say it as a fact.
That's true. We have a lot of fact checking going on.
That's supposed to go away though.
Uh-huh.
That's
true.
supposed to be the thing.
That's true.
We'll
That's
see.
supposed to.
We'll see.
But
Guess you never
we
know,
shall
right?
see.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time you don't even know you're being fact checked unless they
Mhm.
like are like, oh, we're taking this down.
A lot of times you don't even know they're taking something down until somebody else is like, hey, you can't see that. It just says like fact
You're
checked or
shadow
something.
banned.
Yeah.
Or you just got some haters on the internet and there's a lot of out there about
That
hater
too.
this, hater that, hater this.
That too. Do you get like haters and stuff on your
I think everybody
stuff?
does.
Yeah.
It's like almost I don't know why, but it's like human nature. Like they just like that's where it all comes from. It's easy.
To
It's easy.
me,
Yeah.
I've
You're hiding.
used this analogy. I talked to my husband about this. I feel like social media is kind of turning the world into a big high school.
Oh,
It
yes.
is the drama, the competition, the jealousy. Yeah,
Right.
you're right.
And and hating on each other. You know,
Mhm.
like bullying. Like
Mhm.
if we could just get over that as people, we could grow so much faster and
Mhm.
easier. I hope that one day people will get this message and start changing. Even those that have been like the most negative in their life, there's still an opportunity to turn around.
Absolutely.
My dad's one of those. Just negative all the time. I
It's-
swear,
you know,
every
it's
time he
hard
calls
not
me,
to
I
be
know it's gonna be bad.
sometimes. Right? Oh, I got some bad talk about it. I know how that is. There's this one family member. She always knows everything, and if she's calling you, there's probably something bad that happened.
or it's an exaggerated bad thing. That happens a lot too. He likes
Right.
to exaggerate.
And that exaggeration
Aw.
thing. And even when I make my tutorial for YouTube, that's for my situation. Everybody has to realize, like, if they're watching a tutorial on YouTube, they have to take that and decide what bits of information they want to take from it to use for their situation. That's kind of what I did with my MMA career. I never really had a home gym. I trained in a lot of different gyms, and I had good relationships with all of them. I loved going to all those different gyms. But I took little bits of information from each one of them to develop my style, and I feel like that's part of what made me so good at what I do.
Yeah, you kind of embraced all of it.
Right.
But what
Yes.
you're saying is true because we talk about it in this podcast because we talk about relationships, being a mom, being married, being divorced. And it's like these are just our opinions and perspectives. You take what you want and leave the rest behind. Like
Right.
we're not trying to say our way of thinking is right about anything.
Yeah,
No, half
everybody's
the
got
time.
an opinion on everything.
Mhm.
I like to remind everyone, I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I'm just doing it and hoping for the best.
But you know what? At least you're doing it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that aren't doing anything, and then they're just sitting here.
They'll be
hating
the
on
first
everybody else
ones
that's
that'll
doing
write.
something.
Yes, they're the first ones that are typing out comments
Being
to
little
you, and you're like,
keyboard warriors.
yes.
Yeah, I know. But even those keyboard warriors, they have the opportunity to be and do better.
Yeah.
And then hopefully one day I'll reach some of those keyboard warriors, and they will do better.
I think a lot of those people are the type of people that have nothing going on. They're not trying anything new. They're sitting at home. They just got off their 9 to 5. They're miserable. They ate their crappy dinner and now they got online to just be bored and say whatever they want because it's behind a screen and nothing's gonna happen.
No accountability.
Yes.
We should all be held accountable for even anything that we do online.
Yeah.
I think that would help change a lot of things. And you're not wrong, but we also don't know what anybody's been through. Maybe they have been through more trauma than I have, and they just hate life now.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
they
think
need
that's an
someone to inspire
excuse
them.
either.
No, it's
Not
not
an
an excuse.
excuse.
Everyone
Look at how
has
I'm
trauma.
doing.
Yeah.
Everyone has trauma. Granted,
Right.
yours is a heck of a lot worse than anything I have. But
But we all have
we
our own
all
stories.
have our own
Yeah.
story. We all have our
Yes.
own traumas, and you choose how you come out of that trauma.
Exactly.
It's true, but there's a lot of people that do struggle with mental health because of traumas and based on how badly their trauma or how bad their traumas were that maybe haven't had access to help or haven't gotten help, and they respond completely differently than somebody like you or I that is like we're chemically balanced. We know how to regulate our emotions, and sometimes hurting other people and attacking other people is how they deal with it.
I still don't find that an excuse, though. There's resources out there
I
now.
see what you're talking about, though. I knew that was a thing, but I've studied psychology a lot. I studied human psychology a lot while I was out on Fremont too,
Yeah.
and there was
Just
this
being
one
on
individual-
Fremont was a study in human psychology.
Yes, very much so.
Yep.
But there was this one situation where I watched a family friend have a complete mental breakdown. He was the sweetest person that you could ever meet. And then out of nowhere, he just completely mentally breaks.
Yeah.
And was found talking to Halloween decorations by the police because we couldn't find him. He disappeared.
Yeah.
They were looking everywhere, and then the police found him talking to Halloween decorations because the people that lived in that house called the police. And I never experienced watching a mental breakdown until that happened. So that really does happen. It's a possibility.
I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I mean, that's part of a lot of our homeless problem is we got rid
Yeah.
of the mental institutions that used to take care of those people, and now they're out on the
covered by
street.
insurance and stuff.
And-
a lot of people
and
don't have it.
it's
Yeah, when
more-
they run out of funding, they just kick them out.
It's that, and then it's also the mental health that everyone talks about. They just go to therapy. Like that's what we like drive to now. Just pay for therapy. But some of these people need more than therapy.
And a lot of those people can't even afford therapy.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
So
Yeah.
it is. I
It's
had to
expensive
when
to
I
have
went through
therapy.
marriage counseling, our insurance didn't cover it. I had to pay for each session, and it like if you're a normal person, you can't afford that just to like go sit down and talk to somebody and then ask you questions. Like there really isn't a lot of concern for the mental health side of it, and I'm not just talking about somebody using that as an excuse, like, oh, I've been through some shitty times, so now I can be a shitty person. But there are people, especially like our veteran community and stuff, that they really need those resources and they're not getting it.
Big part of
You're
the
very
homeless
right.
problem
You're
too.
very
Like there's a lot of veterans
Oh,
that
yeah.
are homeless
Yeah.
because of their mental
mental
state,
health.
and they weren't able to live in the world that we live in because of what they've been through.
They get no decompression coming back from war zones and stuff like that to be like put back into regular life after seeing some of the stuff they've seen and going through some of the things that they've gone through. And I mean, how many of them have PTSD? A large majority of them, and they're not getting any help.
I've known
the
quite a
military is
few
like,
that need help
"Thanks."
still, and they're
Yeah.
not
Okay.
okay, and someday they might snap. You
Yeah,
know
your
what I
time
mean?
is done.
There's one guy on Fremont. It was after I was done shadowboxing. I didn't even bring a second pair of gloves out anymore at this point. I was
Mhm.
just using my MMA gloves to entertain.
Yeah.
I would like fake throw punches at people. One day this guy like thanked me for not kicking him in the face because I was just very good at pulling
Mhm.
punches and kicks. But this one guy, I wasn't even like really acting like I was gonna punch him. I was just like kind of like slowly swinging towards him, trying to get his attention, and he just went off on me. And he was like, "Don't do that. I have PTSD." And like, I really thought I was about to get in a fight with that ex-soldier.
Mhm.
Like, he really went off on me, and I like it really was an eye opener to the possibility of PTSD,
Mhm.
things that can happen with people. And yeah, that's a real thing.
And PTSD is so commonly associated only with veterans or soldiers. PTSD is for anybody that's been through a traumatic experience,
Right.
like post traumatic stress disorder. That can be assault, sexual assault, health problems, losing a family member. Like, there are so many. I think it was like when I was researching it for my job, 80% of people with PTSD are undiagnosed.
I can imagine. Even getting in a car crash. can cause
Mhm.
PTSD.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you just have so many other mental disorders that people have that are untreated or unhelped.
That are
and-
being
And
treated
see-
with drugs, alcohol,
Yeah.
and other things.
Which
Self-treated.
hmm
And a lot of us don't know that. And that's like, I feel like the majority of the eater community is people that are struggling with things like that. And they
Mhm.
just don't realize, first of all, that they're struggling. And if they
Mhm.
do, they don't care.
Yeah.
But and then we just feel it by feeding into it and getting offended by their comments. But
that's why you just put up that wall, and you're just like, who
literally ignore them.
cares?
My block list is a mile long. I swear.
I don't even block. I just
I just block everybody. I know I should probably stop because it would give me more of an audience if I didn't. But
my thing is I just don't like reading comments.
yeah,
Because
I
of that.
stopped reading comments a long time ago.
And I was going to say, in your situation, having conditions with your heart, it's better for you to keep the stress level down too. So,
yeah, and you would be amazed the nasty things that some people have said to me. And I'm just like, what are
Really?
you struggling with to be able to say something like this to a human being? Like, it's just
that's
it's really
it. Hurt
crazy.
people hurt people. You know that when somebody is being that ugly and malicious to somebody they don't even know, they're just seeing them on the internet. There's some deep rooted issues going on.
Well, and then they just feel like they have this mask, like nobody's ever going to find out who they
Mhm.
are. And sometimes we don't, because right now we don't have enough regulation on our internet.
Yeah.
If we all had to register with our IDs and have our faces and our real names out there, I bet you anything, a lot of that hate would stop.
Yeah.
most of the people that are trolling on social media don't even have a profile.
No,
picture.
it's like a
Yeah, they just
stock
have some
account.
stupid picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's some
No
dumb
picture.
name and like a fake picture, and
Yeah.
you're like,
Well, you're sitting here posting things with your own name and like
Being
the
vulnerable.
yeah, and you're putting yourself
Yeah.
out there, and then they like just try to put you down, and it's just messed up.
yeah,
And the biggest issue with it is like it ends up hurting some people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
like not
yeah.
everyone is strong willed and can just ignore it.
That's
Yeah.
a serious problem. A lot of
Mhm.
people have been bullied into suicide.
Yeah.
Due to online issues.
Yes.
And people trying to be and being bullies online, whether it's with or without their face. There's some people that use their face to bully others into suicide.
Yeah.
And that's not cool either.
So, question: since you both are parents, I am
Mhm.
not, and I would.
I feel like
I
I keep
feel like
leaning
I
into you because I'm talking to her. I'm like,
Put those away. But
she loves them.
so I don't have kids, and I think it's a good thing because I would probably kill someone over a child because I would kill somebody over like hurting a child that's not mine.
Mama's
And
their instinct, really.
so,
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, yours is only 9. I don't know if she's even online yet, but yours are definitely online. How do you deal with that if they get bullied online? Because that is a big issue with like young kids now. Is like it's so easy to bully compared to like the physical abuse and like the like torture at school and stuff like in the past. Now online you can go on and you can say whatever you want anytime you want, and half the time the kids don't even talk about being bullied.
You know, bullies can get personal sometimes. Sometimes they don't. They just say mean, nasty things. But I have educated my daughter and explained that some of these people are just mean and others, and that there's good and there's bad people in the world. It's up to us to decipher who's who. And I think that a message like that has really helped her a lot because she like sometimes I'll hear her playing her video games and maybe somebody says something stupid. I know they're just being dumb, mommy.
So
You
she
have to
knows.
prepare them to understand that just because these people are being bullies doesn't mean that you should take it to heart. first of
What
all.
she said, and I also, I love my quotes. A mother's responsibility and job is to fill their child's bucket up so full that no matter how many holes somebody else pokes in it, it's still full. So for me, I think building them up from an early age and reinforcing them having a very strong self esteem and self confidence in themselves. It doesn't matter what other people have to say to them. I haven't had to deal with any of them facing bullying, I think, especially because my boys are so freaking big and like
Her boys are giants.
they're big boys. My daughter, you know how Nevaeh is. Nevaeh's like, if somebody doesn't like me, that's their loss. Like, she doesn't care. She is
you
all
like her.
about, she's just like,
That's how I feel too.
you're losing out if you don't like me. Like, you could say anything to her. You go, girl, you got a big old booty. She'd be like, I know, I got a big
Thank
booty.
you.
Like, she just takes it and like, you're not going to
Love it.
tear her down. But I think that's really important is you can tell them, there's mean, ugly, nasty people in the world, but how are they going to deal with it? Are they going to take it personal, or are they going to be like,
Now
like,
flipping that around, how do you keep them from bullying others?
That's a good question too. I feel like when you instill respect into people, it is huge. You have to respect yourself and others. And that is a major thing that I instill in my kids. That's actually, I have wanted to for years. I wanted to go around to schools and do speeches, not just for
Yeah.
the kids, but for all the staff and faculty too. I was going to make that very clear when I do this. And one of the main subjects I will be talking about is respect. And if you can respect yourself, then you'll be able to respect others. So the first step is to respecting yourself.
Yes.
And then you have to respect others. Because if we don't have respect in this world, then there's literally no order, and it's impossible for us to progress as humans. But we have to respect each other.
I don't know how to. Once again, like, I have been called to the school to pick Makai up because he got in a fight because there were boys that were bullying another kid, so he stepped into it. Um, Again, I think it's home training. Like, I think that they're depending on how you raise your children, they know what's acceptable and what they can get away with. Like, I'm very active in my children's lives. I talk to them every single day. We have conversations about what's going on in their life. And then I have to throw it back. Like, I feel like part of ours is the spiritual background that they have and the lessons that they've been taught as far as morals and, you know, loving other people and showing that kindness and respect to other people as well. Like, I
No.
hope I don't ever have to deal with one of them bullying somebody.
You go to church, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you go to church?
Not necessarily.
No. I'm just curious. Just because it seems like religion does play, like you have a little bit, and even if like I don't go to church either, but I still have values based
Mhm.
off of basically like growing up with a little bit of church in life, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has something to do with it, but sometimes it usually like kind of builds those morals that you have, that foundation.
I think for my kids personally speaking, because they've learned those lessons through Sunday school and being like in children's church and stuff like that, and then just having different like we all have the Bible app where they'll get daily verses and stuff. And a lot of those are more encouraging and just
Mhm.
about loving your neighbor as you love yourself. And I think that any seed that you plant into your child, if that is nurtured, watered, taken care of, that's going to bloom into something. So you have to be careful what seeds you're planting into
And
them.
I think you can go too far with church too.
Mhm.
Like I know church people that think they're God's gift to earth, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
they are horrible people.
Yeah.
They are. And like I was just like just on the values side of things, not necessarily church as like a whole or
Mhm.
like that it's so
Well, no matter
everything,
what you
but-
decide to follow, as
Yeah.
long as you can build yourself a good base of basic moral values
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
respect for yourself and others, and that's
Mhm.
what's most important. No matter if you choose to go to a martial arts school to find that or on your own.
I
or
forget
at
that you have the
church.
martial arts like that
That's
definitely
big on
that
respect and stuff.
that
too.
builds so much discipline
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
so much character into somebody, and like I think it's the coolest thing you can put in children.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've always, before I even had babies, I could plan martial arts.
Mhm. They're learning respect for themselves and for others. That's a big part of it, right?
Yeah, and as a group too, not just individually. You're
Mhm.
learning together with a group of other children.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I think that's there's things that are like missing right now in a lot of our youth.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
because technology is being used to raise our youth. If we're being honest.
Which is
Well,
not
yes.
good. That's why I asked like how you guys deal with that because it's got to be kind of hard to even manage it, right? Like as they get older, you're not going to be able to tell them what they can and can't post. You can go on.
But if
they'll
I've done
block
my
you.
job as a mom,
Yeah.
raising them up to that point, I shouldn't have to tell them like, don't do this, don't do that. They should already know. Like, I think our job as parents is those first formative years that you have with them. You're teaching them the lessons that you can. You're instilling whatever wisdom you can into them, and then it's up to them to take that and use it or make their own decisions.
That last part right there. Sometimes we can be the best parents in the world, and then they just choose to take
Mhm.
another
Yeah.
route in life.
Yeah.
It's when it comes down to it, it's up to us who we choose to be. Even if you had horrible parents that
Yeah.
abused you growing up, you could choose to be completely opposite from that instead of following in their footsteps and also abusing someone else.
Exactly.
In every way possible. I'm
Nothing like anyone in my family. There's not one person I'm like,
not one. And I moved away from it for a reason. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it's not that I have anything against them. Like
No,
they are who they are.
I get it.
but-
Trust me. I get it on my own level too. I think just like we said before, we all have our own stories. When it comes down to it, we make decisions on what we do,
Mhm.
and if you make a horrible decision, you have to just decide how you're going to fix that, or if you're just going to keep making those horrible decisions.
Yep.
We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And that's something like so with my mom, there was like I won't get into any specifics, but basically like growing up I didn't really know what was going on, right? And then you find out what's going on and then you kind of have some resentment, right? And then like there's no specifics, so it's kind of hard to like really understand what I'm saying. But I had resentment towards her for a while. I still don't really speak to her. Like I
Mhm.
keep my distance and there's reasons behind that. But
if
now that I've like grown as a person, I've self-developed into who I am now. I understand, and I like psychology too, so I've read
thousands of books. That's crazy.
but anyway, I understand that some people
If that
don't even understand why they do things the way
Yeah.
they do things, and that there's a lot of they're doing the best they can in what they know, and that's how I see it now. I see a lot of people throughout my life that did the best they could with what they had and what they were capable of in the mind that they were in.
Right. Well, I mean, that's all we can do, right? Is just be the best that we can with the tools that we have.
Yeah.
And continue to develop. You have to learn something new every day, right? There's a saying that you choose how to learn things, though. You choose ultimately how you're going to be as a
Or
person.
lack thereof too. You choose not to.
Right. And there's a lot of things that can stop us from making these choices. Like depression is a really hard thing. Sometimes it can make us just not even want to shower or brush our teeth.
Yeah.
But we have to decide to break out of that cycle and be better.
Mhm.
I think a lot of that starts with
taking responsibility for your actions too, because
yeah, like you said, you could have did something wrong, but it doesn't mean you continue to do things wrong. You
You
choose
learn
to
from
go
your
that
mistakes.
path or that path. Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's
And you bringing or like being the parents and stuff, something you were talking about and her is like you were talking about situations with your mom. And I think that you can have the most incredible parents that do the best job that they possibly can, and their child grows up and murders somebody. And then you can have parents that are just should not have been parents from the get go and didn't do a great job, and their child goes on to be something phenomenal because it was something in them that was like, I'm not going to continue down this path. So with my kids, I love them and I try to guide them, but I remember being 17 and I was making some piss poor decision
Yeah, well, you know,
that
when
I
we're-
should have listened to my dad.
We've all been young and dumb.
And my dad was like, Heather, I'm trying to tell you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Dad, I can't learn from your mistakes. I have to make my own mistakes. And I try to keep that in mind with my kids is like, I can give them every ounce of knowledge and wisdom that I have, but that's something that I earned from going through things. So
life
I can,
experience. Life
yes,
experience
I
is
can try to
everything.
help you as much as possible. But once they hit a certain age, they're going into their own life. Like,
And at that point, do you just kind of,
as a parent, because
again, you don't, I'm not, so I can't say anything, but do you basically just leave that as like you're on your own, but I'm like letting them know that you're always there to fall back on if
yeah,
they
I'm
need.
always here, but
Right.
sometimes you have to kind of like kick the bird out of the nest too and let them go out there and experience life for themselves. Or else they're going to be one of those 40-year-olds that's like at home with their parents trying to get them to take care of everything, you know?
Right. I hate to circle back to martial arts, but I
Uh-huh.
had to be thrown into the Shark Tank to grow.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happened to me. I got thrown in with the sharks, and I really did. So sometimes that's what we have to do with our kids. I mean, we always hope that we can help them learn from our mistakes so that they don't make the same mistakes. But everybody has to make their own mistakes to learn from, no matter what.
That's how we learn.
Yeah.
We were just in our last podcast, we talked about it's the times of discomfort, where you grow the most. It's not in times of comfort and everything being safe and sound. Like that's when you get complacent. It's the times of discomfort where you learn the greatest lessons.
I'm the most scared when I'm comfortable.
You're like, whoa,
Right.
Literally, like, what is going on? I am a little nuts.
nuts.
My brain moves like a million miles an hour, but I am like, I'm just like, okay, something's missing. I'm forgetting something. What am I supposed to be doing?
I get it. And, we're all going to go through crazy things, some of us less than others. But it's up to us to turn tragedy into triumph, right? Like, my daughter's situation was incredibly tragic. And she went through stuff that she never should have went through. But we're trying to not let them stay a tragedy. Like, for example, we started a foundation, the Katana Rose Foundation.
if
And that
that
foundation is meant to help people that are also going through tragedies like we did. So anytime we get a donation to that foundation, then we help somebody. Our first donation and our first family that we helped, this mom and son lived by themselves, and the son was still in school, and yet he wanted to get a job to help his mom pay the bills. And he had one, and then someone stole his bike. And so he had no way to get to school or his job. And so the Katana Rose Foundation brought him a new bike. And I tested it out, made sure it was a nice bike. And I've been in a car crash before myself because my bike didn't have enough brakes. I got hit by a car on my bike. So I made sure it was totally safe for him. And we're hoping to eventually grow it to the point where maybe we can help families with their home situation during times like this, or whatever. But we all go through different things. None of us are going to have the same story ever. We're all different people.
yeah
Is the link
to your foundation on your social media?
My social media at the Mob Wife on Instagram.
Go follow her.
Yes, definitely. You'll find our link to my GoFundMe for my health needs, and then the Katana Rose Foundation is also up there. And anytime that anything gets donated to either one of those, it helps us tremendously. Not only to help another family, the Katana Rose Foundation, but to help me. Like I said, just the one virtual visit, you don't want to know how much it costs. Let alone everything else I have to deal with this medication.
Yeah.
I have to take 15 pills a day. So my pill reminder went off. Apparently, your phone doesn't silence pill reminders.
That's okay. Do you need to go do that?
No,
Okay.
it's okay. It's okay. I can take it when we're done with the podcast. But
It's that.
and this pump, you might have heard it randomly going off. It goes 24/7. Something I have to handle too, and so I have a backup pump and an emergency kit and a thermal bag in my bag over there. It's something that I have to deal with. That I have to just bring with me everywhere I go. When I travel, I have to overly prepare. I can't check the bag with my medicine in it because it's too cold for my medicine. And just, everybody has their own hurdles that they have to get over. Those are just a couple of mine.
I'm so thankful for you coming and sharing your story because I think it's very easy to get caught up in the things that are happening in your own life and make mountains out of molehills, essentially, where it's like, "Oh, this is so big, and like, how am I
Even
going
if
to deal
it
with
is a mountain,
this?
you have to find how to climb it.
How to climb and get over that mountain." And I think hearing your story and it being so inspirational and from my mama heart, I am so sorry for what you've gone through. I don't want to start crying now,
I
but
know, we got our tissues hiding.
you are so incredibly strong as a woman. Like the things that you have been through, you are an inspiration. I hope that you're able to speak to so many people. I hope that it works out that you can get into the schools. If anybody is watching that can help make that happen, your story is one that needs to be heard by a lot of people. And the fact that you have continued to fight through all the adversities and things that have been thrown at you is so incredibly inspiring.
Thank you. You know, that's why I started fighting in the first place, because I wanted to inspire people. And then even before I left the hospital, I was still inspiring people. I had a whole team of doctors come in right before I left and explain to me how I inspired them mentally, emotionally, physically, and medically, because they never should have survived. And that just meant so much to me. I felt like that was my sign. Like, you need to keep doing this. You need to keep inspiring people because this is your job. It's my job to inspire people to do and be better and better themselves and the situations around them too. And care for others too. Yeah.
And your dream can still be accomplished. It might just have taken a different path and road than what you originally thought.
It's definitely taking a different road than what I imagined. I never thought that I'd be on life-sustaining medication. Yeah. But I also never thought that I would be a fighter when I was a kid. It was just in my blood and I didn't know it.
Still is. You're still a fighter.
Oh,
it's just a different way.
Yeah.
Before we kind of wrap up, because I feel like you guys are getting to the wrap. But what are your current goals? Like, what are you working towards? What do you want to accomplish in the next year? You're such a driven person, so I know there's goals, even if they're not fighting goals, right? So what do you have that you have planned that you want to accomplish?
Well, I want to grow the foundation. I want it to grow larger than what it is now. I want to help my health get better, which is next to impossible. They didn't even think I'd survive this long in the hospital. But I'm doing what I'm doing. So I'm going to keep working on that. That's the biggest priority, of course, is my health. And then, my family. I just want to grow with them. I want to grow together with my family. And then as we do that, I have a goal of inspiring the world to do the same. Mm-hmm.
What's your message to the world then? So you have this goal to inspire the world. If you could say anything,
One of the biggest things that has just been stuck in my head for a while now is to treat others as you wish to be treated. It's something that was instilled in us as kids, right? It's not really around anymore, but it should be. Because if we start looking at things that way and we start treating others as we wish to be treated, then things can easily turn for the better. Easily. And that's something that we should all keep right here. Because, would you want somebody online telling you this and that? Or would you want somebody online supporting you saying, hey, what you're doing is pretty cool? Yeah. Or would you just want to be respected in general? All the way back to that respect that I was talking about. Treat others as you wish to be treated. And don't take for granted being able to do things. When I first got diagnosed and came home, I couldn't even walk across the street. I was too tired. Heart failure takes everything from you. But even if you're not going through something like heart failure, just be grateful for what you have.
If that
Say you don't have any hands, but you can still talk. Be grateful for that. And use what you have to not only better yourself, but to better the environment around you.
Love it. Well, we really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you want to tell or say before we wrap up?
Thank you for having me here. I love going on to all platforms, and I will keep doing it for as long as I possibly can. You probably heard me even getting out of breath on this podcast. But sometimes it's hard to even talk with pulmonary hypertension. But I don't know, something in me tells me I can't stop it, and so I won't.
so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Well, thank you so much.
Maybe
for
we
telling
can
your
have you
story.
back again.
I'd
Yeah.
love to.
Yeah.
We
This
can
was a
just-
good conversation.
It
I'd
was.
just
It
sit
was
with you
great.
for another hour and just
I
talk.
know.
I mean,
Yeah, it was a great podcast.
I know I
Thank
ask
you
a
so
lot
much.
of questions, but that's just my personality.
Well, questions are good. I love questions. I love answering questions. I love talking.
I was gonna say normally I'm the talker, but I've just been so like,
And I'm so
enthralled.
engaged that I just keep coming up with more questions to ask.
Yeah.
Like I could have asked you probably another 30 questions just on your husband.
I know there's so much more we can talk about.
He's a very special character in himself. He's done a lot more acting than I have. He's a really good fighter. He taught me everything I needed to know before I even started, and then became also my main coach throughout all my training. Every time I would go to a gym, I'd come home, I'd say, this, and this happened. So he'd be like, okay, when you go back, do this, and this, and it always worked.
Yeah. And he's
That's
a
so
fighter
cool.
right now too.
Yeah, he's a fighter right now too, and in more ways than one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that too.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, well, he's kind of fighting out the
Yep.
battle with you, and
Mini
it's-
battles.
Yeah, he's really such an amazing person. I'm so lucky to have him. I'm so
I
lucky.
think
to
he
have
is very lucky to have you as well.
him. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're gonna wrap it up. Miss Ashlee Gambino, aka the Mob Wife. Go follow her on socials. Go check out her foundations. Her
Yes.
GoFundMe. If you can support that in any kind of way, it would be greatly appreciated. And we just thank you.
Really, thank you. And
We'll
Till next
see you
time.
next time.